able to communicate the things of God and to talk about the Lord and to pray and pray for people. It's been really wonderful. And I feel sorry for my dad. You know, he left the Lord. But at the last couple of years, I looked over him and saw that he was taken care of, because we can't, at one time I hated my father, but we can't keep things in our heart and hold them against other people, because that doesn't show the love of Jesus in our life, which is very important, very, very violent that we have that.
And how old were you when he left the family?
I was 15.
Wow. And how old were you when he passed away and died?
He was 92, and my mother was 96, and he left me all that he had, and it paid off my sister's house.
How old were you
when
he died?
When he died. I don't remember how old I was.
Well, it was 16 years ago.
Well, he was.
Because I got my car. I found my car
Right.
on the way to his memorial service.
Right. And yeah, right. I just what he said.
So you were 65 when he died.
Yes, and
Wow.
and he had left me financially, and showed care for me. And he was always sorry that he left my mother. Always sorry. But that's why people should marry only whom they will in the Lord, because he didn't agree with her, but my mother was a very pretty woman. And my grandmother told, because she was in such a bad situation financially, she told my mother that she should marry him. And that's not the way it's done. Right.
I think that's a good little piece of wisdom there.
It's true.
And if we could make that a tradition, marrying people according to God's will and his heart, that'd be great. And speaking of traditions, what traditions have been passed on or down from your family, if any? From your parents, grandparents? Has anything come down the pipeline for the rest of the generations?
If I have a tradition from myself, it has been to work hard, be honest, work hard, and enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy the journey, because that's all you've got. And when you translate that into every day and into your job, it makes life a lot easier.
And it's been awesome too, in that we love to give, and when we could give, and the Lord blessed us beyond compare. Like my business, 30 years, some of the highest jobs in town, when I was just a dumb little housewife. You know, he did. He blessed me and gave me a gift.
Now, outside of Jesus, who was or who has been one of the most important people, or maybe influential people in your life? And can you tell me a little bit about them? Mimo?
My Aunt Esther, when I was a little tiny girl, she was the youngest of Grandma's children. And she used to sit me on the floor. I remember I was about 6 years old or something like that. She'd have a little tiny box of candy, little mints or something. And she'd get me, she is very musical, still plays the piano at 87 today. Awesome. And she used to get me down and have me sing songs. She's the one that taught me how to sing, to love music. And then I'd sing it, and she'd give me a piece of candy. Serious. That's how I grew up. Actually, I grew up all around spiritual things, and I'm really thankful that even though I walked away from the Lord for about 5 or 6 years, but when I came back, there was no turning back, no looking back, no desiring. I was a single mom. I didn't date anybody that wasn't a Christian. And I'm just thankful. I wouldn't take nothing for... I mean, I've watched people go through very, very difficult places, and I'm watching them now and still ministering to them because they call and they're hurting. And if you've been through some pain yourself, then you yourself know what it feels like and can have love for that person and reach out to them in a way that you wouldn't even know how, only through the Holy Spirit.
How about you, Papa? Somebody in your life that's been really important or influential?
I think my stepfather was the most influential person in my life until I graduated from high school. I used to work with him in a creamery. I watched him, saw him through everything, and he was just a wonderful, wonderful person. And then I was offered a job as a laborer building houses, and by Byron Whittorf. And that man was a very intelligent person, a craftsman, a real craftsman. And I learned the business of building and the way of working, of disciplining yourself and forcing yourself to do more than you think you can. And I just so thoroughly enjoyed it. So thoroughly enjoyed it.
He was a natural. Look at all the boys that are following after him. Very good.
It's awesome. 2 questions that correlate in some ways. What has been the happiest moment in your life? Happiness kind of comes and goes, right? Joy remains. So what has been the happiest, if you can pinpoint one, what has been one of the most happiest moments in your life? Papa?
I think absolutely the happiest moment in my life is when I accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. It was extremely difficult for me to comprehend the grace of God, and that it could happen, that it was feasible and possible. And I went to church and I asked people, told them I wanted to be saved, and so I'd go to church and I'd listen. I'd go to the altar every time and I'd pray, and I was asking God, please save me. Save me. Lord, please save me. And I was looking for something, an experience, a feeling of something. And finally, one night in Sacramento, no, in Oakland, we lived in Red Bluff, in Oakland. In the evening, I went to the altar and I was praying, and a preacher came to me and asked me if I was saved. I said, well, I want to be. And he said, well, have you repented? And I said, yes, I've repented of my sin. And do you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? I said, oh yeah, that's a given. And that he died to save you from your sin? Oh yes, I do that. He said, well, son, and he opened the book and he said, now, right here it says that if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth, bingo, you're saved. And I thought, that's in the Bible, so it's got to be true. So I said, okay, I'm saved. I'm saved, I'm saved, I'm saved.
Kept saying it.
And I got up from church and got the kids together and I kept saying, I'm saved, I'm saved, I'm saved, I'm saved. Got in the
You
car
did.
with the 4 kids in the back seat and headed toward home, toward Red Bluff, going down the road saying, I'm saved, I'm saved, I'm saved, I'm saved. The Bible says I'm saved, so I'm saved, I'm saved. I'm saved, I'm saved, I'm saved. And about
Halfway home.
somewhere between Oakland and Winters, it dawned on me. I really am saved. And I just couldn't believe it. It was just marvelous.
Hi, Tony. Can you? Yeah. Dr. David Lee. Dr. David Lee. David, that I know of. Call Dr. Gers. What's his wife's name? Can David Lee. Gee, yeah. Can I call you back in just a little bit? Yeah. Okay, hon. Bye-bye.
Somewhere there, it dawned on me, and I realized that I really was saved. And I got so happy, and I was telling my wife in the front seat with me, and I just overwhelmed with joy of I'm saved. I looked for it. I tried to get saved for quite a while, and I'm saved. Man, this is wonderful, wonderful. And in winters, it was late at night, and a policeman stopped me, a great big guy, and he had a big old flashlight about that big, and he flashed it in the car and got my driver's license, and he said, "All these kids yours?" That was before seat belts, and there was 4 of them laying all over the back seat. I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, I'm not going to give you a ticket, but you be careful, slow down, because down the road they'll get you." He turned around and walked away, and I said, "Hey, wait, I'd like to tell you something."
You did?
And I said, "You know what? I'm so happy. I just got saved. I just accepted Jesus, and I got saved, and I'm so happy." And he looked at me, and he said, "Well, you just go on down the road now." And he went on away. And I went home and went back to my job, and because of the conflict of what I had seen businessmen in my friend Byron Woodorf, that was my teacher, because what I'd seen in him, I couldn't correlate being a Christian and being in business. And so I didn't finish my contractor's license. I didn't do it. And his wife had a blood clot in the leg, and I thought, look, if I go pray for her, she'll get healed. And it's a Catholic hospital, and that really spooked me, because then there's a big difference. And so I went to her and in the hospital, and I said, "Now, I'm going to pray for you, and God's going to heal you. Now, if He does, will you give Him glory? And if I don't know when it was, maybe Wednesday, if you get out of here by the weekend, you'll know that God has healed you?" She says, "Oh, yes, absolutely. I'll do it." And in my heart, I knew she wouldn't. But I prayed for her, and God healed her. She got out, and that rascal, she reneged on me. But that was great. That was just great. God was so good. It was so good to be a Christian.
How about you, me, Mom? Happiest moment?
Well, there was so many.
Yeah, one of them. Just one of them.
I think the main one was I was going to move from Los Angeles to. My mother wanted me to move to Redding because she said she'd help me with my children because they were going to move to Redding. Is it okay to tell this?
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I was supposed to move and work for the telephone company because I had been working medical, and I didn't want to work medical anymore because it was too depressing with all the other things that I had gone through in my life. And anyway, I moved over there and moved in a little house. I didn't even have a car. I lived in the country, and somebody loaned me a car. That other couple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Papa loaned me a car. I got a job at Mercy Hospital, And I had to work because I had to feed my children. I had not one nickel of support any of the time. And so anyway, I would see him walk in and out with his wife, who had leukemia at the time. She was 21 years old, 2 little kids. And I would take care of his medical insurance. And I didn't really know him. But one day, Katie, is this too long a story?
No, it's fine.
One day, Katie and he came into the office, and I usually work just the insurance counter. And somebody asked me to work admitting this one day for them. And he came in and he sat like this, yeah.
Papa?
Yeah, he kind of didn't want to talk, and Katie plops down in a chair. Did you hear this story?
Uh-uh.
Good.
Anyway, she plops down in a chair, and she had 2 little barrettes, and she's the one that sat in the person's seat that's supposed to answer the questions, okay? Still Katie, right? And she just plopped down in the chair, and she says, "My mother died," just like that. And I said, "I know it, sweetheart, but Jesus will give you another nice mommy someday." And I went on to ask him questions because I was admitting her for surgery for a thyroglossal cyst in her throat. And anyway,
It's one of the happiest moments in your life?
it was because I knew somehow down deep. I don't know, it's hard to explain these kind of things, because I hadn't dated him or anything, And then one day he called up and asked what the blonde's name in the office was. And then he called me up, and I was so nervous I thought I'd die. My feet were nervous, everything was nervous. I just squiggled. Anyway, he did come up, and this is one of the cutest things I think that ever happened. I know I'm not supposed to tell all this, but I have a son named Fred by my marriage, and anyway, I had bought him a little shirt with fish
How
in
old was he?
6, 5. Anyway, I had bought him a little shirt and a cute little pair of pants to wear to church, and they had little fish all over him. The shirt. He says, I'm not wearing that to church." I mean, he just plain told me. And we had a tree swing out in the yard, and I went home one day, and I don't remember all the detail, but I told him that Karen was staying with my aunt, and I said, "There's a man coming up to visit us," and when I got home, he had that shirt and those pants on and was swinging in the swing because Don was coming up. And I never really realized the impact, the pain that people go through. You don't till you go there somehow. And I realized, and he's always had a special love for Papa. In fact, all of our children, they have really cohabitated in a wonderful way. There's always issues, but in every family, but it just seemed like God was he was just in favor, and I didn't want to work in a hospital, and I had worked in medical before and didn't want to, and that's where he led me, and then my whole life turned around. Totally.
Now, this is the flip side. I'm going to move these papers because they're making weird noises. But, and I'm looking for as honest as you can be, because again, generations will see this.
Oh, yeah.
What's one of the saddest moments of your guys' life as individuals? I once was told the story by Zane Anderson, a pastor in Oakhurst for a season. Now he's in Arizona. And he said, the benefit of showing people our scars is that it helps them realize that they too can survive and then thrive. And we know from the scriptures, as Jesus showed Thomas and the rest of the disciples his scars of the crucifixion, that's our hope of resurrection. And so, as a means of revealing some of maybe a big scar, what's been one of the saddest moments in your life? Why don't you start, Mima?
Shall I tell?
Mhm.
We had been married for like, I think 39, let's see. Yeah, about 39 years. And what caused it, what happened, I don't know. I really don't know. But whether it was from a split family, I don't know that. I'll probably never know. I don't know unless Dad knows. And I tried to keep the marriage together by moving where he decided he wanted to live, and I can understand he wanted to live around the children, and our kids had all grown up, and it was just hard because once your kids grow up and you're so used to doing things with them and for them, and your whole life surrounds your kids, or I felt like they did me. And I loved all my children, and regardless of, I mean, it's not because of your birth children, it's because of the love of God that He puts in your heart, that only He can put in your heart toward any individual, because He is love. And anyway, after the second year, I just thought maybe I was just, I'm going to be honest, used just to raise the children, and that I wasn't of any use anymore. And the last year, when I moved back to California from where they were, and my husband stayed, and I never heard from him for a year. But I had a friend, the first encounter with cancer I've ever had. Her name was Joyce, and the Lord let me stand beside her when she was walking through the cancer, and she went through some very deep waters. And she said to me one day, she said, I hope when I leave this life that you'll marry my husband because he's a good man. And I knew in my heart, I even went to an attorney to get a divorce. He said, does your husband support you? I said, yeah. He said, what do you want a divorce for? I said, I don't. And I really didn't want to, but I didn't really know it was happening. But there was a girl that came into my life. Do you know Tony?
Mm-hmm.
She came into my life, and God used her to love me in a way and do things for me, and that was just her that called and care for me. And now she's not well, and now I feel like I can reach out and touch her in that way, same way that she touched me, with genuine love. She never had a Christian mother or Christian fellowship, but she got saved in college under Donnie Moore, and she's an honestly deep, wonderful Christian, and she helped hold me up during those times. And and then one day, just out of the blue, I was going to move to Oregon so that I could go to work for a designer up there. And when I did, I had called the movers and everything, and my car was in the garage getting fixed, and the telephone rang, and I thought it was them calling me about my car. And it was Dad. He left a message on the phone and said he'd be by to take me on a trip. And I was tripped out over that one, I'll tell you for sure.
You hadn't heard from him in about a year, is your
I
memory?
hadn't talked to him for about a year. I tried, called him.